you to undertake research about Christian women who experience abuse within their marriage and family?
Well, first of all, I could see it happening in families around me. I knew it was wrong, I wasn't comfortable with it, and I really did feel challenged to try to do something about it. I saw that the women were not really receiving very much support. So the book I designed has really been a tool that can help people gain insight into the dynamics of domestic violence, but also the theological issues that are surrounding the situation as well.
What makes this book interesting to the reader?
Probably one of the most interesting features is the stories that are told by the women. Their voices are prevalent throughout each chapter of the book, where they're able to explain their own situations in their own words. So as such, it can easily be used by anyone, either experiencing domestic violence or perhaps someone who knows someone else who is experiencing domestic violence. So the insight is very valuable. Also, we can't leave out the practitioners, the members of the clergy and other counsellors who would certainly benefit from this particular book.
We hear a lot about domestic violence, but there are some myths too, aren't there?
There certainly are some myths that tend to be believed by a lot of people. One in particular is that domestic violence occurs infrequently, should be left up to the family to sort out, and is really seen publicly as a private matter where people shouldn't interfere. Issues around the children. People sometimes think that children don't know what's going on, and yet research tells us that really most of them do know what is going on.
How prevalent is domestic violence in our society?
Statistics tell us that 1 in 3 women experience domestic violence. However, many cases remain unreported, which leads me to believe that really the figures are much higher.
What makes it more difficult for Christian women?
Well, of course we have the issues of power and control, which are prevalent in any situation of domestic violence, and that's for anyone. But for Christian women, often a lack of understanding of the dynamics of domestic violence by those in authority does create a stumbling block. In addition to the belief system of the women, that tends to focus on issues such as forgiveness regardless of what's going on, marriage is forever, also regardless of what's going on, and also female submission to male headship.
What's been the response to your book?
Generally, the response to the book has been very positive from a number of directions. Most importantly, I would say the response from the women who have read the book has been really positive. They've looked at the book, they've read the stories, they've identified with the women in the book, and they've been able to recognise themselves in those pages. And in doing that, it's brought a great deal of hope to them. And in that sense, it has confirmed to me that in essence this truly is a tool that has the potential to reach a very significant audience.
I've heard that some people have been told to simply forgive the offender and that everything will be fine. How do you feel about that?
Well, generally I feel it to be a very flippant and superficial response that places domestic violence in the too hard basket, shifts the blame onto the victim, and contains within it the assumption that if only she would change her behaviour, then everything would be fine. Beyond that, it also releases the perpetrator from any level of responsibility or accountability. It reflects a lack of understanding of the dynamics of domestic violence. It shows no compassion to the victim or her children, and it is definitely non-Christ-like in attitude.
I understand that there's a particular scripture that forms the foundation for the book.
Yes, there is, and that is Proverbs chapter 31, verse 8. This is a social justice scripture. It is indeed a call to social justice when we think about it and when we ponder on those words. As a community, I believe that it is our duty to, at all times, endeavour to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves and ensure justice for those who are perishing, just as that verse in Proverbs tells us to do.